We begin today the Gemara on Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, about 10 lines down from the top of the Amud. It says, Mipnei Tikkun Olam. It said in the Mishnah, Rabbi Gamliel was misakin that you can't be mevatel a get in front of a bezdin. You have to go directly to the shliach or the isha to notify them that you're being mevatel the get. And the Mishnah says the reason is Mipnei Tikkun Olam. So here the Gemara is going to bring a machlokes what exactly the Tikkun Olam is. Ma'ay mipnei Tikkun Olam. What is the Tikkun Olam? What problem are we taking care of by this? Rabbi Yochanan Amar mipnei takanas mamzerim. Rabbi Yochanan says the issue is that if you're not mevatel to get in front of the isha, she could end up getting married thinking she's divorced, and really you will mevatel the get, and then the children she has are mamzerim. She's still an eishes ish. This is the reason Rashi brought in the Mishnah. So you have to be mevatel in front of the shliach or the isha, so there'll be no problems. Rish Lakish says, Mipnei takanas agunais. The issue is something else. Takanas agunais means that this woman is waiting for her get, and the husband is going to send a shliach, and if it's very easy for him to be mevatel the shliach, so then he's going to be hesitant about it, and it's so easy for him to be mevatel the shliach, and he'll be mevatel it. We want to know that once the husband sends the get, we want to make it hard for him, a tirche for him to be mevatel the get. If you want to be mevatel it, you have to go out and find the shliach or go to the isha herself and be mevatel it. So by making it harder for the husband to be mevatel, so hopefully he won't be mevatel the get. So Tosfos here points out this expression of aguna is not the expression of aguna that it says usually in Gemara Yevamis when a woman is stuck and she doesn't know if her husband is alive or not. Here, aguna means a woman that's waiting for a get, basically. It's a different expression of aguna. So the Gemara explains what's the basis of their machlekes. Rabbi Yochanan says that without this takana, we're concerned that the woman could get married and she'll be a ma, and the children will be mamzerim. She's still an eishes ish. Savala Rav Nachman. He holds like the opinion that was brought in the Gemara before, and the end of Daf Lamed Beis, like Rav Nachman. What did Rav Nachman say? The Amar Rav Nachman said before the takana of Rabbi Gamliel that you must be mevatel in front of the isha or the shliach. So he said b'fnei shnayim. Before that takana, you had to be mevatel the get only in front of two people. So if it's only two people, ubeitrei less lukala. And when you do something in front of two people, it doesn't create enough of a rumor that it should get back to the isha, that the get is not a get because you will mevatel it. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan says, we're concerned she won't find out about it and she'll get married and the children will be mamzerim. V'hilei shama, as the Gemara spells out, v'hilei shama, she may not hear about the fact that the husband was mevatel the get. She doesn't know. V'ozla mitzvah, she goes and gets married. And they can mamzerim, and therefore be mamzerim.
Where do you have a bezdin that's two people?
Usually there's no such thing. Right. The Mishnah said bezdin, but the Gemara before said that this Mishnah is an exception. And when it uses the term bezdin, according to Rav Nachman, it does mean two. And he brought before you find by a prusbel that it uses that expression that bezdin means two. It's not unusual, but it is possible. Two could be sometimes a bezdin. Rish Lakish says that the Tikkun Olam is not that she might not find out about this fact that you mevatel the get. No, the issue is we want to make it as hard as possible for the husband to be mevatel the get, so we're forcing him to go find the shliach or the isha herself. So Savalak Rav Sheshes, he holds, Rish Lakish holds like Rav Sheshes, the Amar, Rav Sheshes said that even before the Takana of Rabbi Gamliel, b'fnei Gimel, you have to be mevatel again in front of a proper bezdin of three. Ubeitlasa is lukala. So even if you're not doing it in front of her directly or the shliach, three, there's already a rumor about this. Vishama, v'yada, she'll hear, she'll know, v'lem mitzvah. That's not a concern. She's not going to go get married. She's going to know that this get she got is batal. But v'takanas agunai sudeke. So therefore, Rish Lakish says that Tikkun Olam is to make it hard on the husband to be mevatel, and therefore it'll prevent him of stopping this get, so she shouldn't remain an aguna. Tan Rabbanon, we learned in the Braise a machlokes regarding this takana of Rabbi Gamliel. Bitloi, if the husband went and was mevatel the get, not in front of the isha or the shliach, he just did it in front of a bezdin. So Rabbi Gamliel says you're not supposed to do that, but he went and did it anyways. Mevutel. So bidiyaved, being mevatel the get in this way, it takes effect. Divrei Rabbi, that's Rabbi's opinion. No, you cannot be mevatel it, even with the yeved, it will not take effect. And you can't add any conditions to anything that you made up before. If you had a certain condition of how and when the get will take effect, and then you change your mind, you want to add or change something, you can't change anything or be mevatel the get unless you do it like Rabbi Gamliel said, in front of the Yisro the Shliach. And Rav Shimon Gamliel explains his opinion, she'im kain. If after Chachamim instituted that you must be mevatel in front of the shliach or isha, and you say that b'di'evet, if you did it just in front of any bezdin, it would still be good, so then ma koyach bezdin yofeh. What power, what good is the takana of the Chachamim? They made a takana, and here you say that b'di'evet, if you do it anyways, it works anyway. So in the end, this takana of Rav Gamliel is not going to hold, because b'di'evet you can go against it. Frag the Gemara, barumi ikke midi. Is there any time a case that we could say the midairaisa batal gittin, that minat Torah, the bittul of this get should take effect, because minat Torah, if you mevatel the get just in front of a bezdin, it should take effect, so there's no get. But because we're concerned that the takanas chachamim should be proper and strong, and so because of this, we're going to say that the bittul of the get did not take effect, and therefore sharinon eishes ish la'alma. So we're going to consider it to be a good get, and now we're being matter an eishes ish to go and get married. Minat Torah, she's still an eishes ish. The get is really batal. Chachamim were misakin that the get is not batal. How could Chachamim go and be mevatel a get that Torah says that's not a get? Okay, sorry, the other way around. Minat Torah, it is a get, correct? Minat Torah, again. Mishama koyach bezni yafa sharinon eishes ish la'alma. Minat Torah, it's not a get. Now I said it right before. Minat Torah, it's not a get because when he was mevatel the get, the bittul took effect. You don't have to do it in front of the Isha the Shliach, so the bittul took effect, so it's not a good get. And with the Rabbanon, the bittul did not take effect, so the get is a good get. So Rabbanon are saying that she's not an Eishes Ish, while Minat Torah she is an Eishes Ish. How could that be? So the Gemara says, yes, Chachamim have the koyach to do this. And this is something the Gemara brings up a lot of places. And the reason is because Kol the Mekadesh, a person when he's Mekadesh, a woman, Adaita the Rabbanon Mekadesh. He's Mekadesh, basing it only on the opinion of Chachamim if they agree that the money that he gave for Kiddushin should be money for Kiddushin. And therefore, in this case where the get was given and Chachamim want this get to be a get, so they uproot this Kiddushin. Chachamim can decide that the money that you gave for Kiddushin was not Kesef Kiddushin. The money that you gave for Kiddushin is like just a Kesef Matana. Chachamim have a koyach with Hefker, Bezn, Hefker to decide what this money that you're using is. So when you give money and you're giving it as Kesef Kiddushin, you're saying, like Taisus here brings, this is why we say, Hareyat Mekudeshes li Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael, and you're basically saying that if Chachamim want the money to be Kesef Kiddushin, it should be Kesef Kiddushin. If they don't, it'll be Kesef Matana. So, and Chachamim could do that. That's the Koyach of Hefker, Bez, and Hefker.
10 years later?
Yeah, anytime later, Chacham could decide. Also, this is a big discussion in the Rishonim, whether this means that retroactively she never was really married, and any children that were born are really pogum because they were born without a proper marriage. And then Taisus brings up, so if she's an Eishes Ish all this time, so she can never get a proper warning not to be Mizana, because that would be called the Hasra Safek, because we don't even know if she's really an Eishes Ish or not, because Chacham could always retroactively uproot it. Okay, so there's a big discussion about this in the Rishonim, here Taisvis and other places, Shetim Kebetzes and Ksubis. But some say it doesn't mamish work lamafreya. It works mikana la'aba. It's sort of a mikana la'aba lamafreya. It's not so pashut exactly how this works, this afke inu. But it doesn't really mean that every person's marriage is sort of a marriage, just that's a suffix marriage. It's a real full marriage. Elamai, if and when something comes up that Chachamim don't want, so then mikana la'aba, they have a koyach to turn that money that you gave into being a kesef matana instead of a kesef kiddushin. But it sort of goes lamafreya, but it only starts mikana la'aba lamafreya. It doesn't really 100% go lamafreya, because then, like I said, there's a big problem to this. That's one pshat. There's other pshatim as well. Okay, so therefore that's the point here. So true, minat Torah, this get is not a get. She's still an Eishes Ish. But with the Rabbanon, they want this to be a get. They don't want the bittul to take effect in this way. So Chachamim are uprooting the Kiddushin. Amalei Ravina l'Ravashi. So Ravina says to Ravashi, Tainach the Kodesh b'Kaspa. I can understand how this works when you're Mekadesh with Kesef. Because by money, this is the way Chachamim have a koyach to get involved in this. Because Chachamim can change the Kesef Kiddushin to be a Kesef Matana. That's the koyach of Hefke, Bez, and Hefke. Kodesh b'Biyah, Ma'yekelemeima. But what's if he's Mekadesh with Biyah? So over here, Chachamim can't change the status of the Biyah l'chayra. The Biyah is a Biyah of Kiddushin. How could Chachamim change that? Okay, so over here is also, there's a big discussion in Rishonim exactly what the question of the Gemara is, because if you learn that the pshat in the Gemara here simply is that the person is making a condition. That as long as Chachamim agree, the marriage is a marriage. If Chachamim don't agree, so then it's not a marriage. So then there should be no difference between Kesef or Bia. It's just a condition. So the condition, like Kesef and Bia, is the same thing. That's a question that all the Rishonim ask. But from Rashi, it's mashma. It's not a regular condition. He's sort of being toile it in the das of the Chachamim that they can determine if this Kesef is Kesef Kiddushin or Kesef Matana. That's a concept that applies only to money. So therefore the Gemara is asking, where do we find regarding Bia that Chachamim could sort of change the status of Bia? There's no such a thing, l'chayr. Hefke bez and hefke, we know that's a concept you learn from a pasuk, but well, how could they change Bia? So the Gemara answers that by Bia as well, Chachamim have a power to change its status. Because Shaviur Rabban li bilasai bilasnos. If Chachamim don't want this to be of Kiddushin, Chachamim can consider this Bia just to be a regular Biasnus. The person is marrying and he's doing this Bia l'shem Kiddushin. So what the fact that the Bia has a kayach of being l'shem Kiddushin is only according to the Chachamim, but they can decide that it should be a Biasnus and then there's no marriage here. Tan Rabbanon, so we learned in another Braise, a machlokes that's also between Rabbi and Reb Shimon Gamliel. Amal Asara, a person tells 10 people, Kisva get lishti, write a get for my wife. What's the halacha when you tell 10 people to write a get for the wife? So Rashi brings, we'll learn it later in the Masechta, that one of them writes the get, and 2 out of these 10 have to sign. Any 2 out of the 10 sign the get. The rest, you don't need all 10 of them to sign, unless he clearly spells out kulchem. That all you have, we had it before, correct. But over here he did not spell out kulchem, so 2 of them have to sign. So Rebbe says, Yochel levatel zeshalei b'fnei zeh. He can go and be mevatel 2 and tell them, you don't write the get, and he doesn't have to be mevatel the rest. He doesn't have to be mevatel in front of all of them. So even Divrei Rebbe, this is what Rebbe is saying. So what's the chiddush of Rebbe here? Even though Rabbi Gamliel says every time you mevatel a get, it must be done in front of the shliach. But if it's 10 people that you appointed, you could be mevatel 2 of them, and the rest of them you don't have to be mevatel. The Gemara soon will explain why this is not part of what Rabbi Gamliel said. No, you have to be mevatel. If you're being mevatel these shluchim, you have to be mevatel all of them in front of each other, like Rabbi Gamliel said. So the Gemara explains, what's the basis of the argument here? So one pshat is, they're arguing, if you have now these 10 people, so they're all appointed to be an edus, to sign this get. They don't all have to sign, any of them could sign. So if you're mevatel some of them, if you're going to tell 2 of them, I don't want you to be my shluchim anymore, does that mean that the rest are going to be batal as well? Because you were mevatel 2, the rest become batal? Or not? The ones I were mevatel become batal, and the other 8, let's say, if you were not mevatel them, they stay shluchim. So Rebbe's opinion is, if you have over here these 10 people that were appointed to be able to be Eidim, and some of them became batal, le batal kula. So the ones you were mevatel are batal, but the rest are actually still able to be shluchim. They can still sign the get. So therefore there's no issue here. If the others that you were not mevatel will go and write and sign the get and give it to her, let them go ahead and do it. There's no problem. The ones that you were mevatel are batal, the ones that you were not mevatel are not batal. So what's the problem? When you're mevatel 2 out of this group of 10, what happens is batla kula. Automatically, the whole group falls apart. Now none of them could go and give the get or write the get. So now you have a problem that Rabbi Gamliel said before. The others that you were not mevatel in front of them, they don't know about this. You were mevatel part of them. So they're going to go and write and give the get to her. And they may come to be matter and Eishesish because Rabbi Gamliel paskin that you can't be mevatel the get in front of if it's not in front of the Isha or the Shliach. So therefore, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says this is part of Rabbi Gamliel's takana, that you must be mevatel in front of all 10 shluchim, otherwise there's again the chashash of mamzeris. This is one pshat. So this is, in other words, according to this pshat, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's shitta is based on Rabbi Gamliel's takana, which is only midrabanan. But another pshat for Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's opinion is the kula alma. Everybody agrees. Like Rebbe said, the ones you're mevatel, those become batal. The ones that you are not batal. So really, there shouldn't be no problem here. The takana of Rabbi Gamliel midrabanan does not apply. So why did Rabbi Shimon Gamliel say you have to be mevatel in front of all 10? The reason of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel's shitta is because he holds milsa the misavde ba'api asara, something that was done, that was established in front of 10, when this person appointed them as shluchim, he appointed all 10 in their presence. If you want to have words that should be powerful enough to uproot the words that you said before, it also has to be said in front of all 10. So from here, the Rishonim say, you see that when you mevatel a get, the words have to have the same power as when you appointed them. So therefore, when you speak in front of 10 people, your words have the power of the fact that it's in the presence of 10. So you have to have the same power when you mevatel them. So those are the two pshatim. So either Rab Shimon Gamliel's opinion is based on a takanim d'Rabbanan, or it's din bin that it has to be done in front of the same 10. So now the Shaila was asked, which one of these pshatim in Rab Shimon Gamliel do we accept? And the nafkamin is going to be in the following case. Kulchem mahu. If he appointed 10 to write a get, but he then specified kulchem, right? Kulchem means that they actually now all have to sign it. So mahu, what's going to be the halacha in this case? Does Rab Shimon Gamliel also say that you can't be mevatel unless you're going to be mevatel in the presence of all of them? And the Gemara explains that this shaila here will depend on the two pshatim we said before in Rab Shimon Gamliel's opinion. Do I say time that Rab Shimon Gamliel? The reason Rab Shimon Gamliel's opinion is mishum de kesava eidish batla miktsasa batla kula, that it's a gzerim b'derabbanan, that when you mevatel some, the others also become batel, and the others don't know about it. And vahani, but over here, if that's the case, in this case, kivin da amalahu kulchem, if he told them that all of you must sign lematzu kasu v'yavi. So if he's mevatel 2 of them, let's say, so then they don't have all of them available to sign. So we don't have to be concerned that the others that he was not mevatel may go and sign it on their own, and they're not going to know that he was mevatel. He said kolchem. They all have to sign. So being mevatel some of them is okay. You don't have to be mevatel in the presence of all of them. Or should I say, time that Rab Shimon Gamliel, the reason Rab Shimon Gamliel's opinion that you must be mevatel in front of the 10 that you appointed, mishum de kesava, because he holds kol milse the misavde ba'ape be'asara tzricha be'asara lemishlafa. Because when you appoint 10, you must have the 10 to be mevatel in front of them. And it's menatayre v'hilkach afilu kolchem, even in a case where he said that all 10 must sign. And with the Rabbana, there's no concern that anything will go wrong if you mevatel in front of some of them. Nami, but nevertheless, minatayre, you must be mevatel in front of all 10. The Rebbe brings up this Gemara, very interesting in connection to this week's parsha, regarding the Meraglim. Regarding the Meraglim went to Eretz Yisrael, there are 10 that were appointed to go to be Meragl, to whatever, to go to bring back the fruits. And what happened, Yeshua and Kalev did not join the shlichus, because they saw that they did not want to do the shlichus for the right reason. So the question is, what happens over here? Does that mean that because they were not part of the shlichus anymore, is it mevatel the entire shlichus? Or, no, they're not shluchim, but the rest of the meraglim are still shluchim. The Rebbe brings up, I don't remember now the details, this is in a Sich in Chelik Lamed Ches, in this week's parsha, where the Rebbe connects it to this Gemara, whether you could say that the shlichus is still in effect, or it's not in effect. Or maybe it's the other way around. Yeshua and Kalev are still shluchim, because they were wanted to do the shlichus properly. But the other 8 did not want to do the shlichus properly. Right? So, do you say that Yeshua and Kalev didn't have to bring any fruits because the shlichus is batal? Once part of the shlichus is batal, so the whole thing is batal. Or do you say no, that part of the shlichus can be batal, but we still we're not batal? Just because part of the shlichus is batal doesn't mean the whole thing becomes batal automatically. Whoever's batal is batal, whoever's not is not. Okay, so that's it's connected here to this Gemara. Okay, so the Gemara here brings a raya to this shaila. Toshema, we learned in the Braise, it says Oma l'shnayim. Person said to 2 people, Tnu get li'ishti, give a get for my wife. So over here, when a person says to 2 that they should write and give a get to his wife, so in such a case, it's similar to saying kulchem, because both of them have to do it together. Both of them must sign. Yachal levatel zeh shalei b'fnei zeh. So, divrei Rabbi. Rabbi says you can be mevatel one, and then you can be mevatel even without the other being there. Rab Shimon Gamliel but Rab Shimon Gamliel says, Eina yachal levatel elazeh b'fnei zeh. No, you must be mevatel both of them together. So now the Gemara says, V'ashnayim, when you tell 2 people to write and sign a get for you, it's similar to when you're telling 10 people, all of you must sign together. Because by 2, even if he doesn't say kolchem, you must have 2 signatures. So they both must sign. Upligi, And still, there's a machlokes here between Rabbi and Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. So what do I see over here? Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is saying, if you're going to be mevatel one, it's not okay. But why isn't it okay? What's your concern? That the second one will go and sign it on his own and give the get to the Isha? He can't sign it on his own. So with the Rabbana, there is no concern over here. It must be that the reason Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is arguing is menatayre, because if you appointed them in front of two, these two in front of them, you have to be mevatel in front of them. So over here I see that the reason is like the second shot the Gemara said before. Omer Ravashi, so Ravashi answers, no, that's not necessarily the pshat on this brayse. Ibei de ksive. If this brayse was that he appointed two people to write and sign the get, hachanami, so then you're right, one can't sign without the other. Hacha b'mayaskinam beidei halacha. It's talking over here about a person that's giving these two people already written signed get, and they're just aiding to deliver the get. So over here, when he's giving it to two, so one could do the shlichus without the other. So over here, there is that concern with the Rabbanon that he may be mevatel one, but the other one is not going to know about it, and he's going to go and deliver the get alone. By Eidei Halacha, we don't have to say that minatayre we see over here that he must be mevatel in front of both of them. No, one could deliver without the other. Oh, chanami mistavre. I'll prove to you from this second part of this braise that we're talking about shluchim here that are delivering a get, and they're not writing and signing this get. Tani Seife, because what does it say at the end of this braise? Oma lezeh b'fnei atzmai or lezeh b'fnei atzmai. If he appointed each one separately, so then yachol levatel zeh shalei b'fnei zeh. So then he could be mevatel one without the other. Okay, so the question is, how could he appoint each one separately? If he's appointing these two to just be Adam to deliver the get, so shapit. It's understood how he could appoint separately two shluchim to deliver this get. If one won't deliver it, the other will deliver it. That's okay. But if he's appointing these two that they're going to be the signatures, they're going to write and sign this get, could you tell one person and then another person separately that I'm telling you to write a get for my wife? They're not going to combine to be Eidim, to be able to sign this get. Because the master had said, the halacha by Eidus is, two people cannot combine for one Eidus until they both see the same story that happened together. So over here as well, what is the signatures of Eidim on a get? A very big part of the signatures of Eidim on a get is that they're testifying that the husband told us to write and sign this get. Right? That's if you stam see a get, you don't know who said to write it. The main point of the signature is you know that the husband said. So if the husband told it to one and then told it to another, each one saw or listened to the husband tell him to write it separately. So they didn't see together, so they can't be combined to be signatures on this get. So the Gemara says, no, that's not a raya. So it means, so what's the Gemara trying to prove from here? We can't be talking about Eidim that are signing the get. We must be talking about the Eidim that are delivering the get. But the Gemara doesn't accept this. The Gemara says, Dilmek Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Svirale. It could be that the time of this brayso holds like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha holds that Eidim are believed when each one is saying a story that they saw, even though they didn't see it together. Nevertheless, if they're both saying the same thing, you could combine their Eidim. So maybe this brayso goes according to Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. So there's no raya from here. Okay, now the Gemara comes back to the two arguments we had before between Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The first argument between Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was b'di'evet. If b'di'evet he didn't follow the takon of Rabbi Gamliel that said you must be mevatel in front of the shliach, will it be batel? Rabbi said yes. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said no. And the basis of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion was ma koyach bezin yafeh. The only way that takana means anything is if we give the power that takana should be in effect even b'di'evet. And then we had the second machlokes. When you appointed 10 shluchim, do you have to be mevatel in front of all of them, or even some of them is good enough? So here the question is, who do we paskin like regarding both of these machlokes? So Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda said, Shami b'nei Rababa, I heard from Rababa Tarti, 2 points. Chada kerebi, that regarding one of these machlokes and we paskin like Rabbi, v'chada kerab Shimon ben Gamliel. And regarding one of these arguments, we passing like Rab Shimon ben Gamliel. But v'layadaina, I'm not sure. Hai kerebi v'hai kerab Shimon ben Gamliel. Which one do we passing like Rabbi and which one we passing like Rab Shimon ben Gamliel? So Rav Yosef. So now, based on the fact that the first machlokes is all regarding the point of ma koyach bezdin yafeh, so he's going to bring you from another case where we find what the halach is regarding this subject of ma koyach bezdin yafeh. So Rav Yosef says, let's see. When Avdimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, so Omar, he said, Maise, there was a story of Asa Rebbe Kidivrei Chachamim. and Rabbi did like the Chachamim said. So Rashi here brings, this is also a case of Makayach Bezdin Yofe, and the case is when a Bezdin sells a property, and Bezdin has to evaluate the property, and Bezdin made a mistake, and they evaluated the value of the property, whether a sixth less than its value or more than its value, a shtus, that's when it becomes a mekachtos. So Rabbi pasking like the Chachamim and said that since Bezdin made a mistake in their evaluation, so the whole sale is bottled. So after Rabbi pasking that, so Amal Lafanav Reprota, Benoishal Rabbi Loza ben Prota, Ben Benoishal Rabbi Prota Agadol. So he said to Rabbi, Im Kei Makayach Bezdin Yofe. If you're saying that when Bezdin evaluates and sells the property, and that when Bezdin made a mistake that the sale is null and void, so then what's the power that Bezdin has in the sale that they make? Right, so this Rebbe over there, we see that Rebbe was holding, we don't care about this thought of Makayach Bezdin Yofe. If Bezdin made a mistake, too bad, the sale is bottled. Basically similar to what Rebbe said over here, that even though Chachamim made a takana, b'diavad, if you don't listen to them, it's okay, the bittul takes effect. But Rabbi Lazar ben Prata was arguing and said, but if so, what power does Bezdin have? And Rebbe agreed to him. V'chaza Rebbe v'asek Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. And Rebbe Taka retracted from his psak, and he agreed to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that we accept the svara of Makayach Bezdin Yofe, that the sale will be in effect even though Bezdin made a mistake. So what do we see? Now, midaha. So regarding this machlekes, we see that Rebbe agreed in the end to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that we follow the svara of Makayach Bezdin Yofe, so hach Rebbe. So then we know that since we know that in one of them we paskin like Rebbe, so the other argument regarding when you mevatel 10 shluchim, we paskin like Rebbe. The Gemara brings another story that proves this. V'av Rab Yeshia de min Usha, Sava, so Rab Yeshia from Usha, he also held that chodek Rebbe, that in one we paskin like Rebbe, v'chodek Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and in another we paskin like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Baba Chana shared the following story. Chamisha Sabi Avinan Kameda Rabbi Yeshia de Minusha. There were 5 elders that were sitting in front of Rabbi Yeshia from Usha. Asahu Gavre Kamei. This individual came in front of them. Va'ashkele Gita al Karche. And the Chachamim that was sitting there, they forced him to give a get to write and to give a get for his wife, and that these 5 elders that were there, they should be appointed as shluchim to give the get for his wife. And Rashi brings us certain situations where a person is obligated to divorce his wife, so they forced him to agree to divorce his wife. But now the concern is, even after he agreed, what's if he later runs after one of them, or once runs after all of them? Okay, we'll see in a moment here, and he wants to be mevatel the get. So even after they forced him, he may still play around with this. He may still be mevatel this. So after they forced out of him the agreement to give the get, so then Amaluhu, so Rabbi Yeshia told them, Zilu atmuru, go and hide, and the kisfula, and write the get for her and give her the get. In other words, to be sure that he's not going to find you and be mevatel the get. Okay, so now the Gemara explains. Let's understand this. Why do they all have to hide? Now, v'yisol kedaitach kerebi. If you're going to say we paskin like Rebbe, the bidi yevet, if the husband goes and is mevatel the get and just in front of any bezdin, not in front of the shliach himself, so then the bittul takes effect, so commitment might have it. What does it help that they should hide? This person can still go and be mevatel the get and it'll take effect. So we see that regarding this story, like we said before, we paskin like Reb Shimon Gamliel that says, Makayach Bezdin Yofe, you must be mevatel in front of the shliach. Now the Gemara goes further and says, "V'isol kedaitach." If you're going to say that idoch nami Reb Shimon Gamliel, that in the second story, in the second before we had when you appointed 10 shluchim, do you have to be mevatel in front of all 10 or not? So if you're going to say that regarding that machlekes, we paskin like Reb Shimon Gamliel that you must be mevatel in front of all 10. So over here, the story with these 5 zekanim, you must be mevatel in front of all 5. So then lamalu atmuri. Why is he telling them in order to prevent this person from being mevatel, you have to hide? Why do they have to hide? Livduru, ifduri. It would be enough if they would just scatter, if they would separate from one another, and then he won't be able to be mevatel in front of all of them. So again, I see here, like we said before, Choda, Rebbe, one we paskin like Rebbe, which is regarding the second machlekes, that you do not have to be mevatel all 10, and the Choda, Reb Shimon Gamliel. And the other story, the first machlekes, we say Makayach Bezdin Yofe and Bidi Yeved, it's not a bittul if you mevatel not in front of the shliach. Well, let's finish off the scene. He goes to the next Amud there. The Gemara brings here another opinion that says, Rav Nachman, but Rav said in the name of Rav Nachman, Halacha Kerebbe b'shteyen. We paskin like Rebbe in both of these arguments, which means that Rav Nachman does not hold of this concern of ma koyach bezin yofe. How could you allow to be over on the takanas chachamim and b'di'evet it should take effect? So the Gemara asks, for Lesley, Rav Nachman, ma koyach bezin yofe. Does Rav Nachman not hold of this concept that ma koyach bezin yofe, that once chachamim make a takana, even b'di'evet, it must be in effect? But Rav Nachman Rav Nachman said in the name of Shmuel, Yisayim Shabbalach like b'nechsi aviyem, Yisayim that are ketanim, and they're coming to divide their father's properties. So what happens? Bezdin ma'midin le'an apatrupis. Bezdin appoints an apatrupis for each one of the Yisayim. And each apatrupis has to choose for his yasam that he's representing a good portion, so the chalukah will be properly done. But then higdilu, once they themselves become a gadol, they could come and protest and say that the apatrupis did not choose well for me, and this is not the portion I want, and then they'll have to redivide. But Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman said this in the name of Shmuel, but Rav Nachman himself held, even after these Yisayim become older, they cannot protest against this division that was made with the apatrupis, which is a shliach of the Bezdin. And he explains why. If you allow them to go and protest on this division after they get older, so then what's the power of the Bezdin? You're appointing a apatrupis, a shliach of the Bezdin, and then later the whole thing is null and void. So we clearly see that Rav Nachman is the one that holds of ma koyach bezin yofe. So how could Rav Nachman say regarding the machlokes, when you go against the takana of the Bezdin, b'di'evet it takes effect, and we don't say ma koyach bezin yofe? So the Gemara answers it's not the same thing. Hasa mamayna. When it comes to a money matter regarding dividing the properties for the Yisayim, so over here Rav Nachman says it's done. That's it. The koyach of the Bezdin, we don't change it. And Rashi says because it just pertains to a money matter, so the klal is hefke Bezdin hefke. Bezdin has the koyach to decide what it should be, and you can't change that. But hacha yisura, over here, following the takanas chachamim is relevant for a isur of eishes ish. You're following the takana of the chachamim, and you're saying that the get is going to be a good get, while menatayit it's not a good get, as we discussed before, right? You're going to have to chachamim are going to have to undo the whole kedushin afkeinu. So over here, you're using the koyach of the Bezdin to such an extreme thing that you regarding a question of eishes ish. Here, Rav Nachman says we paskin like Rebbe, and we don't utilize the koyach, the concept of ma koyach Bezdin yafeh.